This video is going to walk you through how to begin brainstorming your personal statement for your law school applications. Where do you even begin? What's the first step that you take? We're going to cover all of that in this video. Today's video is about brainstorming your law school personal statement. For those of you who are new, my name is Sydney Montgomery, and I'm the owner and founder of S. Montgomery Admissions Consulting, where I provide personalized college counseling and law school admissions consulting. Growing up in a military and Jamaican family, education was so important to our household. As the first lawyer in my family, and also as a graduate of Princeton and Harvard Law School, I strive to help my students break down generational barriers, believe in themselves, step confidently into their future, and build communities for life. So today, we're talking about your personal statement. More specifically, we're talking about how to begin brainstorming your personal statement. So I want to remind you before you begin to hit that subscribe button below so that you can stay up to date on new videos as I walk you through the entire law school application process on this YouTube channel. So when it comes to brainstorming your personal statement, I have 3 main points that I want to get across to you. The first one is to start with a broad range of stories. Build your universe of stories, and we'll talk about what that means. The second point is don't focus solely on the tragedy or the adversity or the thing that you've had to overcome. There's way more to your personal statement than that. And the third point is don't overlook the small things, because the small anecdotes and the little pieces of you that you might think no one cares about might actually be the glue that holds your essay together, and it might be the thing that humanizes you and makes an impact to the admissions committee. So let's dive in. The first point is to create a broad range of stories. Now, when I work with my students, we use something called the story matrix, but I'll just kind of generally explain what my process is. I want my students to be able to call to mind all of the significant moments of their life, the moments that really shaped them and moved them as a person, both positive and negative, both professional and personal. So we talk through and we brainstorm the list of accomplishments, professional and personal, obstacles, things that relate to the law, adversities, impacts, accomplishments, and any other miscellaneous thing that really shaped who they are as a person. Why do I do that? Well, I think it's important to note that the decision to go to law school, for most of you listening, was not one that you made lightly, and it's not one that you made overnight. This decision to go to law school is something that's been percolating inside of you. It's been growing and swooning to this idea when you're finally ready to take step and take action. And I know for so many of you, like for me as the first lawyer in my family, this is a huge undertaking, and it's probably something that some days you're like, I don't know, am I really going to do this? Am I really going to apply to law school? Am I good enough to apply to law school? So first off, I want to address that. You absolutely are good enough to apply to law school. And you need to remember that you are worth it, and you are important, and you are needed. The world needs more lawyers like you. The world needs more conscientious attorneys who are trying to make an impact for generations to come, who are trying to change and better their communities. The world needs more change agents and thought leaders and thought provokers. The world needs more people like you. So that first answer to your question, am I worth it? Am I really doing this? Can I do this? Is yes. You absolutely can do this. But to do it, I need to understand who you are as a person. I don't just want to understand the tunnel-visioned roadmap that you think I want to hear. So often when we write essays that we think admissions wants to hear, we end up writing an essay that completely misses the mark. They want to know who you are as a person. They want to know what makes you tick, what moves you, what incites anger and fear and sadness and joy. They want to know those things. And they want to know how it relates to your passion and your pursuit of law school. So, in order to get down to the deep root of it all, I actually need you to widen your lens. I don't just want you to tell me the things that you think they want to hear. I just want you to write down your stories. And you might be like, but Sydney, nobody cares about half this stuff. That's okay. Write it down anyways. You will be surprised. You'll come back to this list of stories for your diversity statement, for scholarship essays, for YS essays. This is an important thing for you to do. I tell students all the time when I'm working with them that this process does not have to be stressful. When I guide my students through the process, I'm there with them every single step of the way. I hold their hand, I read every draft. And so I believe that this process can actually be peaceful. It can be relaxing even. It can be a wonderful introspective moment into who you really are at this juncture, this stage in your life. You're currently sitting on a crossroads. And I think when you are at crossroads is the best time to really look backwards at what we've gone through and look forward to what we're looking to do. And so writing this master list of stories, it should take you at least 1 to 2 weeks. It might take you more. You know, students ask me, how long should I save for writing my personal statement? How much time does all the written application take? And I like to say it takes at least 3 months. Because if you're doing it right, if you're really getting into the thick of who you are, you can't just write that overnight. So I really want you to be thinking of that. One of the ways that it helps for my students to create this master list is first to think of it for themselves. So I want you to take time, with yourself, but you're not going to think all the stories at once. So you're probably going to write down some stories, and then you're going to be doing the dishes, and you might come up with some more stories, and you're going to be going to bed, and you might come up with some more stories. Always be journaling and have a place where you can organize your stories. Like I said, I have an organizer for my students that I use. And I also want you to maybe ask the people closest to you, ask your partner or ask your parents or ask a sibling or a really close friend. If you've left out anything, if you're really struggling maybe to come up with some personal accomplishments. I know that's a hard one for some people. We tend to downplay our own accomplishments, but those around you will be able to lift you up where you can't see your own successes, and they can add to your matrix or your organizer. The second point that I have for you is don't focus solely on the negatives. And so when you make these kind of stories and you're able to really talk about both failures and accomplishments, impacts, moments when you really shine, moments of leadership, when you also make a conscientious effort to include stories in those categories, you will avoid the trap of only talking about the trauma or the tragedy or the thing that you've overcome. So often I think students feel like they have to, quote, pimp their pain in order to show admissions how much they've overcome and how much grit they have. But at the end of the day, the personal statement is a place for you to show why you want to go to law school, why law school is the next step in your logical journey, and that you know what you're getting yourself into. So in order for you to convince me, because that's really what this is, it's a persuasive piece of writing, in order for you to convince me that you want to go to law school, in order for you to convince me that you know what you're getting into, and you don't just have some fictitious idea of what law school is, but that you actually have research and yes, at your school I'm going to participate in this clinic and this program and this is what I plan to do. If you are able to move beyond trite and overdone sentences such as giving voice to the voiceless, helping the marginalized, breaking down systemic inequalities, but you're able to give me specifics, then I will really feel like you're ready to go to law school. And I'll feel like you're going to stay in law school and you're not going to realize that this isn't the place for you. I'm concerned about my retention rate, right? As an admissions committee, I'm concerned that I want to make sure I'm going to bring people in who are going to stay and who are going to graduate, and then who are going to do great things with their law school degree. So tell me that, show me that, assuage all my fears. The other thing is that oftentimes students get trapped into the single story narrative and they feel like they have to tell this story. So the first thing that I would say is that you also have a diversity statement, and a lot of times that identity, if it's not directly related to why you want to go to law school, it can go in the diversity statement. Even if it is directly related to why you want to go to law school, there are ways of bringing it in without it being the main character of your story. And you should really have more than one story. Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie famous novelist tells her TED Talk story on avoiding a single story construct. And I think that's so important. You as a person are more than just the trauma that you've gone through. You're more than just the pain. You're more than just this negative thing that you've overcome. You also have hopes and dreams and goals. And more importantly, hopefully you have been doing the work. If you're interested in food law or animal law or criminal justice, that you've been doing the work, that you've done some internships, or you have done some advocacy work, or you've done some volunteer work. And I want to see those receipts in your personal statement. That's what's really important to me. So you want to have at least 2 stories, and you want to make sure that you are highlighting the positive and the strengths that you have as well. And not just in a list or not just this taught me character, but literally I want to see in a narrative form at least 2 anecdotes of stories in which you are impacting, of stories in which you are serving and helping and making change and being part of the solution to something. That is really important and impactful to me as an admissions committee reader. The third point that I have for you is don't forget about the small things. So oftentimes when we are writing these essays, and you'll hear me talk in other videos about the importance of outlining, but right now we're just focusing on the brainstorming part, there are some little gems that can be so fantastic. There are things that relate to your pull, to your why law, that are really great. Now, I want to make sure that when you're just brainstorming your universe of stories, I don't want you only brainstorming stories that relate to your why law. I want you brainstorming all the significant moments in your life that has shaped you, both positive and negatively. I think that's so important because it's going to become the universe of your stories for all of your essays. But when you are really looking and you're trying to choose which stories, which is kind of a step 2, but when you're trying to choose which stories, I want you to look and see what are the small details that you can add into a story that will humanize it, that will really impact the reader, that will put them in the moment. Those are really important details as well. And sometimes we throw those away because we're like, oh, no one cares. But it brings a smile to my face when I see those details about your culture, or I see those details about someone's life that you were able to impact in just a really subtle, nice way. And so as you're brainstorming your stories, really think back to the moments, because the moments will become the memories that the admissions committee will have. They will remember how they felt when they read your essay. They will remember the impact that you had with them. So I think that's also really important. So we covered, of course, you're going to brainstorm with a large universe of stories. You are going to not just focus on the negatives, and then you are going to look also at the small details, the gems, the moments that will become the memories that you will leave with the admissions committee. Now, if you're like, Sydney, this was great, but I want more, what should I do? I'm so happy to tell you that you can actually enroll in my online masterclass, a step-by-step guide to brainstorming, structuring, and drafting your personal statement that will walk you through all of those processes that I was explaining to you. You'll have videos from me. You'll see examples of every single part of the process. You'll get my organizer for controlling and organizing your stories. You'll see samples of why law statements, sample essays. You'll really understand how we go from start to finish. And I will walk you through all of that in asynchronous videos. But if you're like, no, Sydney, I want to work with you, then I highly, highly encourage that you join one of my law school application boot camps. My boot camps are capped at 4 students per boot camp so that I can actually read every single one of your drafts. I can read your story matrix. I can help you pick your stories. I can talk you through the areas where you're stuck. In addition to 10 group sessions, they also come with 2 private sessions with me and 3 extra hours of editing time. You also get office hour access to me. So if you have questions during the week, you can just drop in and ask me. I love working with students in boot camp. I think it's a fantastic way of going about the process. Not only do you get expert guidance, but you also get the support of a cohort, a community, accountability partners to walk you through the entire process. So you can check the links below for that. And of course, I believe that there's some information that just shouldn't be behind a paywall. So I recently released my essential guide to applying to law school. It is completely free. You can download and grab your copy right below. It's a 60-page guide that walks you through every single step of the application process. I highly recommend you start there, and then from there, see how I can become part of your law school journey. I absolutely believe in you. I believe in the impact you're going to make, and I believe in your future as an attorney. Make sure you subscribe to this channel so that you can continue to get more up-to-date advice every Monday, and I will see you very soon.